I don't want to hear any of your Jehovah's Witness stuff, because, newsflash, I am not one, and I'm never going to be one.
Hey ladies, got a struggle? Need to vent? It's time to join your voice and get down to business with some critical thought, where like-minded ladies share their personal experiences to empower each other, using critical thinking to make wise decisions. And now, here's your host, Lady C.
Hi, I'm Lady C. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Struggles of Jehovah's Witness Women. My upcoming guest has a rather impressive resume. She is an established performing artist and has done quite a few things in her community. She is a drama teacher. She also teaches theater workshops.
A lot of times it's really difficult to find just the right things that I need to make me feel confident when I'm out there on stage, and even when I'm imparting things that I've learned along the way with others. So I just thought it would be a good idea to pull together a workshop.
She has a list of plays that she's written. Not only that, but she is known for her children's playbooks and even appeared in a Faith Evans music video. So, I mean, she's been there, done that, and still going. And as I would say, she's got enough ambition to fuel the world. She contacted me because she wants to tell her story and what it was like growing up and being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So please join me in welcoming Sharece. Thank you so much, Sharece, for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to just start off by, Sharece, you telling our listening audience what your experience is being one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Well, I grew up around the quote-unquote truth. I grew up around it. I would say, ever since I was born, it was just something that I've known. I didn't know anything other than that as far as religion goes. My family was heavily indoctrinated, and my family made up of my mother, okay, and my brothers and sisters. And that was the main thing that, she put in our ear, in our mouth. That's what we did. She would go to meetings when she felt guilty. So there was kind of a little bit of a disconnect too. So she was kind of like a double lifer, but we were still heavily indoctrinated and we were expected to follow the rules of the organization.
Yeah, that's amazing how everybody comes from a different background in the religion. And a lot of times people don't understand because they're only looking at life from their perspective, and they don't realize that the Jehovah's Witnesses actually span the gamut, and until they really understand all the different experiences that people have gone through, then they can kind of like take a look from behind their view of what they think witnesses are all about. How did your mother become one of Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, my grandmother was a witness for a good while. Back in the 60s and 70s, she was a witness. When she came here to the States, the witnesses came to her door. Now, my grandmother is French speaking and deaf, so she's partially deaf. And so, someone from the ASL congregation came, spoke to her, and she was hooked immediately because she didn't have any friends. She was new to the country. So that's how my grandmother got it. And then my mother took to it since. My mom has always felt that this was the truth, it was deep in her heart, so to speak, but still she had her vices. And so she didn't get baptized when I was younger. It wasn't until later that she got baptized. My grandmother currently is not a Jehovah's Witness anymore, but she also does have a lot of emotional issues and depression and things. And so one thing stumbled her and then she left. And I'm still not clear on that story because she keeps a lot to herself. But she just doesn't do the witnesses at all. So.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that you mentioned that your grandmother had some issues and stuff with depression and everything. And It always seems to be the same constant drumbeat with people when they end up studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. They always have some type of problem. And as my husband always says, Jehovah's Witnesses always have a fix for someone. When they bring their little book bag, they come to your door, they got something in there for everybody. So, of course, like your family, they had a fix for her as well,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then, so let's fast forward to your situation and how you ended up getting involved and becoming a dedicated baptized Jehovah's Witness.
Mm-hmm. So I came from a very dysfunctional background. There were some bright times. There were some really good times in my life as a child, but there were also some very, very dark times. So I found myself really pretty much raising myself from 10 years old and on. My mother at the time, there were a lot of different men in and out of her life. Okay. And so when she would go through her bouts of depression, or when they would leave her or whatever, she found herself going back to the meetings, needing to reboot, re-up on Jehovah, And so that was our cycle. It was just constant that, and just seeing so many mixed messages. But there was a guy that came into the picture. My mom wanted me to call him my stepdad. And he was disfellowshipped. Now, she was in love with this man, and only because he had a witness background. She didn't care, whether he was, in the truth or disfellowship. She was still somewhat safe because she wasn't baptized yet. So she brought him into the house, and he was a monster. He was horrible. Thankfully, I've never, experienced any sort of like sexual abuse or anything like that, but I was very neglected. And so he would beat us a lot. He would beat us all the time. And so that was my experience, dealing with the congregation and him, because we would then go to the congregation and people would notice there was something a little bit off about us, me and my sister, that we were just miserable. And so they really took to us and they started Bible studies with us. One particular couple, an elder and his wife, took me in. They pretty much adopted me. Every weekend they took me in. I had my own room in their condo, and they became my mother and father. And so it got to the point that I was there now through the weeks. I was there 7 days a week, and I was about 16 years old. So technically I was still a minor, and his name was Chris, the elder. He said to my mom, "Can we just adopt her? Like, is that okay?" And she goes, "Sure, I don't care." Was ready to, do paperwork and everything. She was like, "I can deal without the stress." And so he was, that particular year that he was going to do that, we went to an assembly and he drowned at the hotel. Yeah, at the hotel pool. So, from there, it was like my heart started to just fill up with, this is the truth, because this is my family. I connected it to that, this outside family, this extended family that, I then had. But I went into a deep depression after he passed.
I know you did.
Yeah, that was like earth shattering for me.
That had to be very traumatic.
Yeah.
Did you get grief counseling?
No.
Just go to the meetings, go out in service. Is that what the brother said? Just pray more.
Oh no, I cut off everything. I didn't even go to high school. I didn't go to school. And I was in my last year of high school. It was like my junior year. Mm-hmm. And I just checked out. Like for 3 months, I just stayed home. And so, I fell back behind on school. I really hated his funeral. Because I'll never forget when I'm going into my room in their place, right? And this woman stops me in the door. I have no idea who this woman is, by the way. No clue. I've never even seen her at the meetings. I don't know, but she's a witness, all right? And she's standing in the hallway and she stops me and she goes, "There's paradise. So you don't need to be crying." And I was like, get out of my room,
Exactly, right.
I was a very I was very aggressive. I got to the point, when I was around 13 especially, I was very aggressive because I couldn't deal with the instability of what was going on at home. Mm-hmm. So I looked at her and I said, "Get out of my room." This is like a grown woman, older woman, but I didn't care. At that moment, this was about family. This is not about your organization. This is about my feelings and what we're going through as a family.
Like right now.
Yeah, be present. Like, what are you telling me this for? Like, I don't hear this every day. Like, Chris wasn't just last week having Bible study with us talking about paradise,
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was crazy. So that happened, and then I just checked out. So yeah, I didn't go to I stopped going to high school. I stopped everything, and then I went to adult ed and got myself together, as far as school. But I stayed away from the witnesses because nobody could compare to Chris. You know what I mean? And I just disconnected for a while, and I couldn't really relate to anybody else in the congregation. Just to be transparent about that. Like, I went to a congregation that was predominantly Caucasian, and I felt like people were talking to me because I'm unbaptized and I'm a Bible study. So they're getting time on me, and I always felt this disconnect. Even though there were other people in that congregation who studied with me, it was still like, I don't feel like you really like me as a person, or I don't feel like you really have a connection with me. You're just doing it to collect time. I knew that even still back then.
Now let's talk about this. Let's talk about this getting time on you. For people that are viewing this podcast and they don't know what that means, can you explain that to them?
Yes. So witnesses, once you're a baptized witness and you start witnessing to people, you start talking about the truth or reading information with them, they're starting to collect time. Okay. So it's just like clocking in on a job. Remember, the Watchtower is a business. And so you have to put in your time. You got to put in a certain amount of hours every month. And then you get that pat on the back, once you or like for yourself, because nobody's going to do that for you, right?
You are an individual that realized what people were doing with that time. And so you're thinking, oh, you're here. If you're not really conscious of that, then you think that they're genuinely there for you. And then you realize, oh, no, they're not. They're just here counting time.
Yeah, it was very confusing to me. Mm-hmm. It was very confusing to me. There were some girls in the congregation that were a little bit older than me, but they didn't want to do anything. Like it was like they didn't want to bond. It was just like, that's her and this is us. Like, so it was very cliquish in that way. But also too, I can't help but the elephant in the room. We were the only like children of color at that time when I was much younger in that congregation, along with like another family or whatever. But the difference. So that was what that time was like. So fast forward a little bit, 17, 18 years old. I'm not at the congregation because I don't want to like have to think about Chris and just, being in that environment and people telling me about paradise. I want to hear it, but I still felt like it was the truth. I just felt like I was taking a time out. Right. So I was in high school. I graduated. I made a promise to myself that the day I turned 18, I would leave the state. I said, I'm getting out of here. I'm not living in this environment anymore. And that's exactly what I did. I had $300 at that point. I just didn't care. I felt like my time was up, even though I was like saving and saving because I was waitressing and like doing 2 jobs at the time. I just hopped a bus with $300 and a Greyhound and went to Atlanta. I applied for a private school online, and see that's a tricky thing about private schools. People should really know that, these little private schools are willing to accept you. They don't care. They just want your money. Right. And so I found one of those. And I ended up going. And so, and they had a housing program too. So I was able to stay in an apartment. They put me up in an apartment and I started going to school down there for media production. Very similar to like what you're doing, with TV and stuff like that. I wanted to be in front of the camera, behind the camera. I just wanted to be in that world. And so that's what I was doing. I was wilding out. I definitely, and I knew that. I was thinking about this witness stuff in the back of my head, and I was like, once I'm really good, then I'll go. Once I feel like I can go. So, make a long story short, I was wilding out, doing what they consider worldly people to do, going to the club, drinking, smoking weed, doing all that stuff. And so it got to the point where I was starting to feel lonely. My cousin moved down there with me, but that she had her own life, I had mine, and there's just different things that I wanted to do. And my mother goes, the memorial's coming up, because she was always at the memorial, always, this was a ritual for us. We go to the mall, buy an outfit. It's a whole production. Okay. Assemblies, it's a whole production. So here she was, on the phone with me at the mall. I'm at the mall, going to the memorial. Maybe you should see if they have one in Atlanta that you can go to. You know what? I'm going to make a couple of calls, and I'm sure they can get in touch with a brother down there. And I said, okay. I said I would be open to it. It's whatever. I'll go. Well, like literally the next day, the brothers are at my door. Just their presence. I just remember this feeling. It was so angelic in my mind, right? Just them being there. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know. I had this overwhelming feeling and just thinking that they were sent by Jehovah, right? So they're talking to me, and he says, I'm going to set you up. And I took to him immediately. Like this one brother in particular, his name was Greg, and we're going to talk about him a little bit down the line. But yeah, I really took to him. He was just a man of little words, but very genuinely just a good guy. And he goes, I'm going to set you up with my wife. She's, she's going to give you a call. And if you are open to studying the Bible, she'll do that with you, but it's your choice. But we will make arrangements for you to get to the memorial. As a matter of fact, my family will be taking you to the memorial. So I'll come to pick you up and we'll go. I said, okay, no problem. So I went, the love bombing, everybody was like, it's like fresh meat, right? So everybody's coming around me like, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of nice because the congregation was very diverse. And these are like people of all different economic status and races. And I really liked it. I really liked the energy. So I said, I can go back there and I don't feel weird. So he set me up with his wife, Nancy, and we started studying. It was just automatic, just like that. And she set it up where it was a routine. And so now I was like, wow, she really likes me as a person, because she would do the Bible study, bring me to her home for family dinner. I sat with the family, prayed with the family, ate with the family. And then we would go to the meeting. We did things as a family, and this was a routine, and they lived in a beautiful home. It was like this ranch mansion. It was like a flat mansion. It's hard to explain, but it was gorgeous. And they were very wealthy. He was the CEO of this healthcare company or whatever, and was doing very well for himself. And I really looked up to him. As a matter of fact, at the time I had a boyfriend who, like, within a month of me studying, I told him, I said, I can't see you anymore. Like, I just became this robot. I just completely changed. And he was like, you're becoming a different person. And I was like, well, I'm going back to the truth. So this is what I'm going to do. I foresee myself getting baptized, and this is over. What we're doing is over. It's done. But I had a different voice. He told me that I was walking different, that I sounded different, that I had just a whole different personality. He's like, where is my girlfriend? Like, he was freaking out. He punched a hole through my door, through my bedroom door. I told Greg about it, and I was crying and everything. Do you know, Greg, the next day, he didn't even hesitate. He came over with a brand new door, some supplies, and he just fixed it, put in a new door, didn't ask any questions. He goes, where is it? And that was it. So I was like, oh, this is family. This is,
Your boyfriend contacted me.
Who?
Your boyfriend?
Who?
I get a lot of people around the world contacting me because they were dating somebody and they decided to go back to the Kingdom Hall. So it's like, there's a lot of people like yourself out there, not your particular boyfriend, but there's a lot of people that are dating and they're involved with people. And we get a lot of emails from people saying that, they were having this great relationship with the person they were with. Yep. And then all of a sudden, they decided they wanted to rekindle this relationship with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they just shut the door on everything that they've ever had.
Yep.
And that's happening around the world. Yeah.
That's what I did. It was being re-indoctrinated. Because I already felt like it was the truth, but I was like, well, I'm just doing my own thing. You know, Jehovah knows my heart. Like, that was my mindset. But then once they came in and the hooks started coming in, I was in. And so I started taking things very seriously. And I had my own personal study routine going. I was just 100% in. And so I started making friends in the congregation. And Nancy was very protective of me too. She's like, don't hang out with that one. This one's okay. You know, like, she was really, and she was very motherly with me too. And what I liked about her was that she can get emotional, because that was a disconnect that I saw in the congregation I was in up here in Connecticut. It was like no emotions. It's just very robotic, right? But Nancy and her family, oh my God, I just loved them. And her sons were very nice to me. That we were about the same age. And so from there, I ended up getting baptized, and they passed me on to a different sister to study with. She was a single pioneer and woman of color. She was in her 40s. They felt like she would be better suited to continue studying with me, because Nancy, I guess, took on other responsibilities, right? And so Wendy was her name. Wendy, you know, showed me another side, and I really felt like I was in family now. So I had family I had this family here, and now Nancy brought me into a different world. So she was on me. She definitely was, she had a tougher personality. You know, she was a no nonsense, no BS type of sister, right? But she was fun, and I had a really good time with her, and she can, you know, joke about certain things I couldn't joke about with Nancy. So I had a good time with her. And then, you know, I had a couple of friends. They became like my best friends. I was that girl that couples adopted, right? So it's funny because I watched a video back recently about the videos that they show the Bethelites, and they gave an example. They said, you know, single sisters need to have appropriate relationships with people in the congregations. And so, for an example, if you're a couple and you're wanting to adopt a sister, I was mind blown. I was like, this is a thing? Like, so I guess I fit right into that group of people they were talking about. So yeah, I made friends in other congregations. I started networking, you know, spreading out and just, you know, just having fun, having a good time, and really establishing myself. I left school for this religion. I only went for about a year, but because my new best friends, you know, helped me find an apartment and get established, they gave me furniture, they hooked me up. That's what really kept me there and made me feel like even more so that this was the truth. I already felt like it was, but now I was like, you know what? I have to devote my life to this, because this is real. And so my mother started complaining to me, saying that she is struggling with my brothers and sisters, my younger brothers and sisters. They're much younger than me. I'm about 10 years older than them. And so she goes, you know, I really could use the help if you can come back home. And this was in 2004, because that was around the time I got baptized. Well, my mom decided because I got baptized, she should get baptized now too. Okay, so she's a little bit competitive in that way. And also she doesn't want somebody showing her up like that. It's like, you know, this is my daughter, she's doing it. Oh, I have to now do it too. So she did it. She took the plunge. And so here I was established. I had my own place and all this. And I took that in, and I said, all right, Mom, I'll come back home and I'll help you with the kids. So I did that. And then I got on the pioneer list. And I spent all of my time witnessing, and I made barely anything. I was working part-time and struggling, and I had student loans now, and they were piling up. But I said, it's going to go away because paradise is coming. So I didn't care about student loans. I kept doing forbearances, and I was like, whatever, I'm not worried. That's not my problem because paradise is coming. So I ended up joining the French congregation because I had to get away from my mother again. I was like, oh no, oh no, this is like me reliving stuff, you know. There weren't any men in the picture, but it was just she just wanted me to be their mother. And that couldn't work. I wasn't equipped for that. And I was very militant. I became very militant. People would tell me, because when I came back to Connecticut, I had old friends from high school that wanted to meet up for lunch, because now they're in college doing their thing. And I would meet them for lunch, and I brought my Bible and I brought materials. And they were like, okay, well, I just want to know how you're doing, you know? And I'm over here like, well, you know, this is what Jesus says in Matthew. And then just like not talking like a normal person. You know, I'm just not even having that like human connection with them, being friend. I'm not, none of that. I'm this robot, and I'm giving them, just pumping them the information. They try to, you know, redirect the conversation and say, hey girl, remember when we used to, you know, microwave our weave and, you know, do like Shirley Temple curls? And I was like, yeah. And so 1 Timothy 3, you know, they were like, what the hell was wrong with you? So that was crazy. So anyway, yeah, they tell me this now, like, yeah, we couldn't rock with you anymore. You were just, I was like, all right. So anyway, that was going on, and I was pioneering. I decided to join the French congregation. Now, keep in mind, one thing about me, I'm a very ambitious person, right? So I had to move on to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. I was like, okay, baptized, check. Auxiliary pioneering, check. Pioneering, check. So went to pioneer school, all that. Then I joined the French congregation because, you know, I speak French. I'm like, oh, this is going to be easy. And they put us through French school, like French classes. Like we took classes in French. And I was like, oh, this is the truth, because they got us doing French classes. I don't have to pay for this. You know, the worldwide work. That was the thing that sold me on the truth. It was the worldwide work as well, besides the family stuff. So then I move away from my mom yet again, because I knew this was not going to work. And I joined the French congregation about, it's like 45 minutes away from where she lived. And I moved in with a sister down there. And I was almost engaged to this brother. And it was just it was a different world. Again, you know, here we are. It was just a different world. I wasn't feeling that love connection anymore. I started to feel lonely, even being in that relationship with him. He was just very militant and just didn't have much personality. But you know, it was a box that needed to be checked, and I thought he was cute. You know, so it was like, well, this could work. So, I struggled there.
Well, now you said that you got involved with his brother, but I mean, was he doing anything in the religion, like, or was he just on the sidelines?
No, he had aspirations to be a ministerial servant, but he was going to school for nursing. And a lot of the Haitian brothers and sisters that come up here, they're not hearing that about higher education. That's not happening. They're getting their higher education.
Oh, so this brother was Haitian?
He was Haitian. His family was not having that. He was going to go to school for nursing. So,
well, you know, that's what happens with the foreign witnesses that come over to the United States. They're here for the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, he was going to school for nursing, and there were things about him that I did like, but he was extremely alpha, and I don't know. He said his comment to me, because I asked him, this is what broke it off. I said, so my mom is very sick, because my mom has lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, and she's, you know, always complains that she has to take all this medication, and it worries me. So I'm like, you know, anything could happen to her one day. She went through a surgery and all this stuff, and because they found cancer cells, this whole 9 yards. And I said, in the event that she passes, I'm going to have to help take care of my brothers and sister, because they were minors at the time. And I said, so if you were my husband, like, you know, how do you feel about that? What do you think? He goes, well, that's not my problem. He just flat out said that's not my family. That's not my problem. And I was like, okay, well, this is over. Like, I can't, you know, I'm not going to be with somebody who thinks like that. I'm just not.
You can't. Yeah, that's right. And you have to look at it just like that. And it was a good thing that you asked him that question, because a lot of times when you're going along in the religion, you don't think about those type of things.
Yeah. I mean, this was a very possible, this really could have happened. And I would have been in this whole relationship with him, married, and with all the rules of the congregation, you know, and all that as regards marriage, I would have been stuck in that. So, so yeah, that made it, I broke it off over that. I was like, no, this is not gonna work. So then here I'm feeling very lonely again. And so I go to an English speaking congregation. Now it's just me and my thoughts, right? And I'm just like, and I have a friend in Atlanta who actually, she was so cool. She was so cool. She really showed me sisterly love when I was down there. I loved her. She was so dope. And she had a daughter, and her daughter was a sweetheart. And we always stayed in touch. We were talking on the phone like every other day. And slowly I noticed a shift in her, but she was very careful with me. So basically what I'm getting to is that she knew this wasn't the truth. She started to learn things. And so she would slowly start, you know, slipping information. And it was like, hey, you know, I found something weird today, you know, on this. And she goes, I'm not trying to scare you. She goes, this is not really comfortable for me to talk about, but, and so it would be little things. So she showed me the thing about the UN, and I had an answer for all of that too. Everything she brought to me, I was like, oh, that is interesting. But, you know, Jehovah has a weird way of doing things. That was always my answer. Like, I could easily answer anything. Yeah, well, that's Jehovah, because men are imperfect, right? So she had all this information she was passing to me, and I still was open to it though, because I'm a very open-minded person. So I was just like, that's interesting. Let me chew on that for a second. But yeah, I don't know. So she did send me a couple of links, but she was very careful about not, like, you know, sending me a bunch of information. And she even told me, she goes, you know, I'm not trying to confuse you or nothing like that. But, you know, because I was asking her now. I was starting to ask her, well, what have you learned? What are you learning? Because you're saying that you learned some new stuff. And so she sent me to this website, Topics, and it was like threads and people having conversation about the stuff that's going on in the organization. I just chalked it up to people talking. And so I just looked at it like, well, you know, Jehovah's going to take care of it. So whatever, you know, I know there's issues in the congregations. Nobody's perfect. There's pedophilia everywhere. But here's when things started to take a turn. I was very lonely in the congregation, because this was now my new congregation, English speaking. I got out of the French one, went back to English speaking. And I went straight to the elders and I said, I could really use like a shepherding call. Like, I just need to talk to somebody because I don't feel connected to anybody. I feel like I need spiritual help. Like, I feel spiritually weak. And so they're like, sure, sister, you know, sure, no problem. Well, they never made an arrangement. So I went a second time, then I went a third time, and I don't like begging, right? So I was like, you know what, this is enough. This is too many times me asking. So then I started working for this school, this elementary school, and I started to get to know the people there really well. And I became friends with a coworker, really close friends with a coworker. And before you know it, you know, he and I were then, you know, going beyond a friendship. And so I brought that to the brothers. I said, you know what? Things have gotten to another level now. You know, I have come to you a couple of times. I really, you know, I have some things that I wanted to work out, but at this point, you're probably going to have a judicial committee with me, judicial committee meeting with me. I just told her straight up, like, you know what, just do this because I came to y'all. I need help. I'm not getting it. So, but I really want to air this out, and I want to clean my conscience. And so they held judicial committee or whatever. And literally that meeting was 10 minutes. And they said, okay, well, you're disfellowshipped. Like, it was that fast. And I was like, what? Like, I have so much that I put into the organization. Like, I spent a very large portion of my life pushing this work, being broke to push this work, you know, and doing all of this. And I really thought that they would understand that, you know, people naturally fall on emotional hard times, you know, and it's not like I wasn't trying to reach out for help. And I'm like, but disfellowshipping is for non-repentant people. And they said, well, you've had dealings with a brother from the last congregation, right? And I said, yeah, but I came to you for help. Well, yeah, once again, you know what I mean? Like, yes, there was a situation, but we talked about it, and that was in confidence with just one elder. Like, how did this become a whole thing? It was just really weird. So, and then there was something from when I first, came back up to Connecticut that I went to them in confidence about, me and this other brother, and it was nothing major at all. Nothing. I mean,
so you had confided in the elders about previous relationships. And so they tried to compile all of that into this one that you're coming to them about with your coworker.
Yep. It was a 3 strikes you're out deal. That's what happened. 3 strikes you're out.
You say there was nothing. I mean, remember, witnesses, if you look at somebody the wrong way, you can get disfellowshipped.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. The first situation was kissing. Like, kissing. I went to them because I freaked out that we kissed. Like, really? So then the second one, it was a little bit more than that, but nothing. It was like middle school stuff, And I didn't think at the time I felt so bad. And I went to the elders. I was like, oh, I really don't want to be doing this. And I just broke up with this brother, but I have to get this off my conscience. So I told that to one elder, and naturally they keep a document or a letter, and it's getting passed to the congregation.
JT did a video, a podcast about the letter of introduction. So exactly what that's all about,
It was a 3 strikes you're out. It's really just like a business. You know how you get a written warning? That's what it was like, a warning. A second warning, and then 3 strikes, you're out. So that was devastating for me. But at the same time, I thought I deserved it. I said, okay, this is Jehovah doing this. He feels like I need a timeout, and that's fine. But I also knew how hard it was for a lot of people to go back, because they set the bar so unrealistically high. You can't miss a meeting within 6 months. You got to go regularly. 6 months. They even wanted you, even though you can't go out in field service or whatever. I believe the brother was saying you should even be at the service meeting. Don't go out in service. You can't go out in service, but you should be there just to keep, just build your spirituality back up. And I was just like, wow, like this is something about all of that. Was just the thought of that was very overwhelming to me. But I was like, and I was regular at the meetings, regular, on time, always made sure, I went to all 5 meetings. Okay. I did the service meeting, I did everything. The Sunday meeting, the Tuesday night meeting, the Thursday night meeting, the field ministry, book study. I had all of that going on. So it was just, I knew that my world was going to change. So at that time, then I was talking to my friend. I told her, I said, I got disfellowship. She goes, no, you didn't. And I said, yeah, I did. She goes, girl, you're not disfellowship to me. That's what she said. This was the one who's a witness who was passing on information to me. And I was like, but I know you're not supposed to talk to me, and that's okay. She goes, I'm going to talk to you. Like, that's stupid. So then I was like, well, why do you think that's stupid? And then it opened up this conversation. She goes, well, see, they can't do that to you. They can't tell me not to talk to you. So it opened up more conversations. So I started looking online. And that's when I started looking online, and I was reading some information. I don't remember the exact websites I was looking at, but I started now to look at some of the websites and take some of it a little bit serious now. I was like, maybe they have something here. That's interesting. Now I was looking at the UN thing. Like, that is weird, and something started coming to light. That is kind of weird. That is kind of weird. What if this is not the truth? What if this is not? That is a possibility. I was weighing all these things. I was like, because how could that have been Jehovah to he knows my heart. I talked to him all freaking day long, like, why would he do this? And I was thinking he's the same person who was removing me. So I was very conflicted with my relationship with God at that time, because I'm like, this is weird. I don't think a father would do that with his child. And then I started to question worship. You know, that became a big question for me. The style of worship. Why would a God want somebody, why would he cut off his own flesh and blood that's coming to him saying that he needs help? It's weird. And again, the worship thing, you know, why am I like sacrificing so much and pumping so much time, putting in time for you? Is that what you really want? Because truth be told, if you want this work spread out around the world, you can do that without stressing all these people out. I mean, that was really what I was thinking. It's just not efficient, okay? You have people going door to door. This is not the 1940s. Like sales 101. This is not the 1940s. Like there's so many other ways you can, you know, show people the truth. And why are you hiding it? Why is it that one of us has to go and go through all of this, you know, go through this program and like program people? Why do we have to program them? Why can't you just be revealed? Why are you hiding? So all of that, my relationship and understanding of the Creator was just, I started to open that up. That started to open up for me. And then I did come across a lot of YouTubes, a lot of websites that were just flat out scary to me. Unfortunately, you know, everything that they talked about apostates, that's what they were doing online. It was scary. They were screaming, you know, they were looking crazy. I was like, I don't want any parts of that. Like, they look like demonic. Like, that's how I took it. So I couldn't take the information. And now when I look back, they had really good information, but even still, the way the message is being given, I can't take that, you know, as somebody who was coming from indoctrination. Like, they're making fun of the witnesses. I don't like that. Even now, you know, there's a couple of videos that are, you know, pushing the envelope and they're like really funny. But beyond those, I don't like that. These are people who they're indoctrinated, and a lot of them are really good people. You know, they had something in their life that went left or whatever. And so the witnesses came to them with an answer. So they felt safe, just like you did before. So for you to come in and like be making fun of them constantly on the YouTubes and to talk so badly about people who just honestly are robots, like we all have been, I don't think that's nice, you know?
Well, what it is people who have been repressed to do things and you had to look a certain way, now they have the freedom to do what they want to do. And it's therapeutic for them. And so they decided that this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do. Right. And like you're saying, though, when people who are trying to wake up and get out of the religion and they see that, they just can't resonate with it and they kind of shut down. Yeah. So in a sense, you know, nobody's helping anybody.
No, exactly. It's like counterproductive, you know? So I said, you know what? I went to two meetings and people really went out of their way to like turn their back to me. I didn't like that either. I was just like, I'm trying here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying. After that second meeting, I was like, I'm done. I'm not going here anymore. This is just, I'm not feeling good. And what's the point? I'm not going to be able to take in the information. I can't study my watchtower. I can't focus. This is just, I'm done.
I think you made a good point. You know, you're being cut off. Your heart is right in the right place, but you're being cut off. Right. And I've never been disfellowshipped and had to go into the Kingdom Hall like that. Mm-hmm. But now that you're saying what you're saying, I can put myself in your shoes. Yeah. Because I didn't like going into the Kingdom Hall and I was not disfellowshipped. And I felt like people didn't treat me right. So now imagine being disfellowshipped, being cut off, and you have to go in there and sit through all of that. And like you said, be focused, study your magazine, and take in information. I can totally get that, what you went through.
Yeah. And it wasn't making it better. It was making it worse. So it was just like, everything became a blur for me. And then I closed the chapter. I just closed it. I said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm torturing myself by even going to this meeting. Why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was studying at home. I was studying at home for a while. I said, I'm going to have my own study. I'm going to study at home. I'm just going to read the Bible. That's what I'm going to do. And I had read the Bible already 6 times, But as I started to look at the Bible, I'm reading it and I'm starting to see other things in a different way. So now I'm like, well, if God is such a loving God, I'm questioning a lot of things now. So then I start going online. I'm like, well, I need another group of people to be around. I'm a group person, right? I am a group person. When it comes to working out, I need a group, that's just me. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe I should go to a non-denominational church and I'll bring the New World Translation, Then I stopped myself from that. I'm like, no, I don't want to form new relationships with people on a religious tip, because then they're going to bombard me with information. And I'm not ready for new information. I just need a lot of prayer. That's what I need.
Well, how long did you actually go out and go to these other churches and, be with these people? How long did you do that?
I didn't physically go out. I started researching them, and I would get to the point where I would get dressed and I said, I'm not doing this. Like, I can't. And because a part of me still was like, no, it's false religion, So I wasn't. And then I ran into Black Israelites. I started like Googling some things and I was like, and I started really looking at Deuteronomy and I was like, I definitely see a connection here with what has gone on over history and slavery with Black people. And this clearly matches. I mean, the Bible is talking specifically about this. So my mind started going in that direction with Black Israelites. And that sister, she left the organization. She decided that she would fade out.
The one in Atlanta that was trying to tell you to go to the different UN sites and stuff?
Yes.
She ended up going to the Black Israelites?
Yes. So she faded out, and but she did it in a way where she would go to a meeting here and there to keep her relationship with her aunt, because her aunt was her babysitter. So it was all of that. I was like, wow. So, but she had to do what she had to do. I mean, she had nobody in her life. And let me tell you, that her name was Tanika. She went through some things. In her life. And we really connected. We really bonded. And she really understood me, as a person. So
is she still have you kept in touch with her?
No, she just disappeared.
So you don't even know what happened with her and this new religion, the Black Israelites.
She left that too.
Oh, she left that. Oh, she did? Okay.
Yeah. So she was looking into that, and I was looking into that, and then she started, and then she thought about it. She's like, you know what? It's still a religion. It's, all religion is just.
So that just wasn't working for her either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So she left. And then, I mean, it's been years. I would love to hear from her again. So Tanika, if you're watching this video, I miss you. Call me. My number is the same. I haven't changed it all these years. And so, yeah, it's just, so I just unplugged. I just started just doing a lot of prayer, and I stopped following the Black Israelites because they were getting too crazy, and just that whole world, because there's this huge Black conscious community too. And I would dip and dab a little bit with some of the religious ideas, but I was just primarily just doing a lot of research, a lot of research. And then I decided to just take a step back and not, subscribe to any religion, but my focus then started to be on, what we've gone through as a people, and that was my thing. So I left religion altogether. I was done with that. Closed chapter, speed it up. Here it is now 10 years later, because all of that was back in 2009. This past July, I was in I was part of a 24-hour playwriting event as one of the playwrights. And the topic had to do with conspiracy theories. And so literally out of a hat, randomly, they would pick out the different ones that they would assign to the playwrights. And they randomly picked out of a hat the actors and directors. And so they picked out the Denver airport for me. I know nothing about the Denver airport and conspiracies there or whatever. So I had to do some research on that. Do you know, when I looked at the Denver airport, they have all of this Armageddon-esque, doomsday-esque artwork on the walls. And a lot of the artwork looks like paradise with a fire in the back. And it's like people of all different tribes and races and people. And I'm just like looking at this art, and all of these feelings started to stir up because I was so done with the witnesses, it wasn't even funny. I was like, if you even said that word, Jehovah's Witness, like I would cringe. That's where I am in my life now. Like that's how I was feeling. So when I saw that artwork, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna have to make one of these characters a Jehovah's Witness.
I don't want to hear any of your Jehovah's Witness stuff because, newsflash, I am not one, and I'm never going to be one. And I'm definitely not going to prance around from door to door in some little house on the prairie dressed.
And so I had to then, when you write a play, you have to do research and create that world. And so I went online, and it was just like a whole brand new, refreshing experience with this, because now I'm seeing all of these people come out with information, Bethelites. I mean, it blew my mind that I saw Bethelites, because we looked at them like they were the elite of the organization, right? Former elders, former circuit overseers. You got them here online just dishing out everything that was happening behind closed doors. And it was just amazing. And then I found your channel, and I was like, oh my goodness, here are some people I can like listen to. And it's, it was just a breath of fresh air. So that's how we got up to where I am today.
Wow, that is amazing. You have a really interesting story, I tell you. I mean, and then just that little bit of, just your mother being a witness, and, how it's passed down from your grandmother, and then how you took to it.
Yeah.
Because that indoctrination is so deep, and it runs deep.
Right.
But I think what happened to you is the dysfunctional family that you came from.
Right.
And I think that you were looking for some stability. You were looking for acceptance and love. And you got that at the Kingdom Hall.
Right.
And I think that, because you ended up with some really good people. And I always try to tell people, look, not all witnesses are bad. I used to be a witness, and I would never say I was a bad person. I don't think I was a bad person. So I would have probably been showing you the same love that they were,
Right.
But then the people in the organization that show the love, they get broken by the system. Right. Because you can't beat the Watchtower system. At some point, those brothers that's showing you all that love, they have to give in to the Watchtower, so that it beats everything out. Right. All the love that they're trying to show you now goes down the drain as the instructions from the organization changes. As they say, the light gets brighter. Now you can't do this. Now you can't do that. So it makes it really difficult for people. So basically, you're kind of like resurrecting your interest in the arts from when you went to Atlanta. Now that you're disfellowshipped, this is what's happening to you right now?
Yeah, so this is what happened. So a puzzle piece in the story is right around the time I was getting disfellowshipped. This is really interesting. I went to this meeting because there was this witness who was a hardcore witness, but she was a pro-Black, sister. And she dropped me this, she would always drop me information about stuff that was going on in the Black community. But then she hit me up with this. She was just passing along information to me. She sent me this information about Yale holding a business academy, a small business academy, because she knew that I still had like this entrepreneurial spirit, because I made my own CDs. Like I recorded my own music. I even wrote songs that had things to do with like witness life in it, but I would never directly say it. So it was still, work for people on the outside as well as on the inside of the organization. and with a little R&B CD, you know, had a little Aaliyah vibe to it. And she sent me this. And so I went to the Yale Business Academy and I got to networking there. And I met this woman who approached me and she goes, I think you would work really well with kids. And I said, do you think so? She goes, yeah. I said, I don't have a whole lot of experience working with kids, but I'm the oldest of 5. She goes, that's fine. You know, come to the school tomorrow morning and I'll introduce you to the principal. I think she'll love you. And I said, really? So then I did. I brought my resume and the principal really just asked me a couple of questions. She goes, what experience do you have with kids? I was like, not much, but I did create a lesson plan, you know, in the past or whatever for something else that this company I was working for as an administrative assistant. And she goes, and she's just watching me and she's like, you're going to be the drama teacher. And I'm like, drama? I have no experience in theater. Okay. So I was like, but I didn't say that to her. I just said, you know, okay, but I don't have theater experience, but you know, I know how to perform. You know, I know how to sing and I write my own music. And she goes, yeah, you're going to be a drama teacher. You're going to teach these kids drama and theater. And I said, okay. So then I went and started doing a lot of research on theater and drama and I made sure like for those next couple of weeks that I knew what I was talking about, what I was going to be teaching these kids. And that opportunity opened up a whole new world to me that I would have never had learned had I stayed being a witness, because I wouldn't have been able to pursue that life, you know, doing this. This was right on the edge of me leaving. So the worldly guy that I was dating from my job, the coworker, he immediately came to my aid. So I explained to him, I said, listen, you know, I'm getting ready to leave this religion. I know it's going to be very, very hard for me. You know, I have, you know, X amount of money. You know, this is going to be enough for a first month's rent, but I'm not going to have enough for a deposit. Like, so he goes, no problem, I got you. And he put a deposit down on an apartment for me. And I moved right in. And that was that. So he helped me transition from the sister's house to getting my own place. So that's what ended up happening. So I had that plan in motion before any announcement was made and before I even talked to the sister that I was living with.
And then what ended up happening to you with your relationship with your coworker after you left the Watchtower? Did you continue to see this person?
No, no, it was more, honestly, he's a really nice guy. He was a really nice guy, but I didn't see myself with him long term. I feel like I was going through something emotionally and he was safe, you know, and he was somebody who wasn't a witness, somebody I could vent to, talk to. And, you know, it became a little bit more than that for that moment in time, but that was it. Like I didn't see a long-term future. I left the organization at, you know, about 25, 26 years old. And I had barely any college education, you know, a year. And I didn't do well in that year because I was balancing this witness stuff along with school. So that was a major struggle for me now trying to enter into work worlds. You know, now I'm like, and I had no way of understanding how school really worked as far as the finances go. I just thought I was doomed because I had these student loans that were sitting, you know, on my credit and all this. And so I was just in over my head. I was overwhelmed and I was like, man, I'm going to have to keep doing customer service jobs. Like, what can I do?
Well, did you finally finish your degree?
No, even now to this day, I'm still working on it because I've been paying out of pocket. And just recently, last year, I was able to get financial aid because that federal loan finally got paid off. So now I'm getting financial aid. So now I can afford, you know, do the classes without having to pay because I was paying out of pocket. So what I would do is take a semester on, semester off. And I could only afford 2 classes, you know, a time. So here we are, you know, from 2009 to 2018. You know, it's 10 years of me playing this education game, so beyond just the degree part, I did do different things to build up my education in theater.
Well, are you saying that because you had this federal loan, you did not qualify for financial aid?
Correct. And it was outstanding. It was like, it had a lot. Yeah. There was a lot on it. So.
Okay. So what would you recommend to people listening to this podcast who are going to school, contemplating going to school? What would you tell them?
If you're already going to school and you've already taken out the student loans, I mean, the minute you finish, start paying, put a little bit to it every month. But those of you who are contemplating going to school, there's a hustle for everything in this life. Okay. And there are certain schools out there that they're just there to take your money. I would encourage that you go to community college first, get it for free, get awesome grades, because I have A's. That's why I'm able to get financial aid. If you have low grades, you're not going to be able to get it. So you can have financial aid, pretty much pay your way through community college, which then you can go on to a 4-year, pretty easily transition into that, especially if you're in a state that has a good program where they connect the two, like mine does. So like all of the community colleges in our area here in Connecticut, they have relationships with these 4-year colleges. You can transition right into the 4-year with credits from this, and they take all of them. They take all of the credits. So.
And financial aid, you never have to pay that back?
No. Nope. It's given to you. As a matter of fact, you get a little extra for books. So that helps with cost. Yeah.
And then for Jehovah's Witness children whose parents are telling them not to go to school, or they're listening to the society's recommendations to pioneer, what would you say to them?
It's absolutely asinine to not go to school. It's crazy. I'm sorry. It's crazy. If you really sit here and think that you're just going to graduate high school and you're done, you're wrong. Okay? It's very hard out here. You will be working at McDonald's. You will be working these customer service jobs, because I did it for years. I know what I'm talking about. And I had to, hustle 2 and 3 of these joints. All right. I was doing hotel, waitressing. I was doing juggling all of that. And it just really, your health deteriorates. You don't have time for yourself. You're just trying to, get a couple of bucks just to pay your rent. And you will always struggle, and you will always be in poverty. What people don't understand, or what people don't see as the effects of leaving a cult, is poverty. Okay? Poverty, when you're in that state of being, emotionally, it's not good too. There's a connection with that. So definitely, I understand if you are currently a witness and you're still, contemplating a lot of things, you don't know what your next move is going to be. Whatever you do, don't not go to school. Please go to school. I don't care if you're pioneering, you're auxiliary pioneering, enroll in some classes, get some credentials under your belt, because you will need that. You need that.
That's true, because I always try to tell people too, that when you pioneer, that's for life. When you go to college, that ends. And you're able to take care of yourself. You could then work a part-time job if you needed to. But by the time you go to school, you're going to find out this ain't the truth anyway, because you're going to start to think, you're going to start to live a different life. That's why they really don't want you going to school, the Western society, because they want to keep you in their world. They want to make sure that you don't think above the end coming tomorrow. And they want to make sure that they keep you in their program. And people that go to school, they see that there's a different life, a different world out there. And college teaches you to think. Yeah. That's what they don't like. They don't like the competition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's definitely true. I mean, and I think that's true of most cults, one tactic they use is keeping you busy. As long as you're busy, you ain't asking too many questions, right? Mm-hmm. That's why you're on these quick builds. There's always a quick build. What you building for? Is in the end coming? You know what I mean? What you building for? You have to ask yourself these questions. Well, honey, it's being flipped for real estate, Mm-hmm. So it's not, and you might be thinking, oh, well, that's to support the worldwide work and others. Well, yeah, the donations are doing a good enough job of that. Okay. It's more than that. It's public information, not apostate stuff, nothing. There's public information that shows that Jehovah's Witnesses, they're in the top 40 billionaire group. You're amassing all of this wealth, but you're getting ready for the end? I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so.
So Sharece, can you tell us a little bit about, the books that you've written, the plays you've written, and your theater work?
Sure. I'll mention this first because this really opened up the door. So me getting back into school, because I honestly did not know how to navigate that beast. I really didn't. I was like clueless. I was like, I'll never be able to go to school because I have a mountain of debt and student loans. So I wrote, but I developed this huge passion for theater, right? I started doing music with theater. I was doing all of this stuff, performing arts with the kids. I was writing all of these plays. So I said, you know what? I really want to get my education in theater. So I'm going to write to colleges. I'm just going to tell them my story, tell them what I've been through and what I'm trying to do right now. And if they will please just accept me, I will go to wherever it is. I don't care. I'll drop my apartment and I'll go. And so I wrote to hundreds of schools. I sent emails to hundreds of schools that had strong performing arts programs. And one got back to me. And the one said, Sharece, we think your story is amazing. We think you're very interesting. We think this would be a good program for you, and we would love to extend the opportunity. We're going to give you a $7,000 scholarship. Now, I would not have been able to get that had I not done some of this, writing these kids' plays. And also, too, here's a fun, you might find this to be a fun story. Around that time, I was learning about the art of mime. So then I was like, well, let me make a little video on it. So I just put it on YouTube, had fun with it because it was just something new that I was exploring. And a director from LA saw it and said, we need this in Faith Evans' music video. So before you know it, I was flying out to LA. This is all within a year after leaving The Witnesses. I was flying out to LA and I choreographed my part and I was in her music video. So that was really interesting. So I used that video and sent that to the school, as part of my portfolio along with the kids' plays that I wrote. And they said, we think you're a very interesting person. We want to give you this scholarship. And that's how I went to Philly. I was there for 3 months. I got credits in performing arts from Bryn Mawr College, which is a very good school. And so that's how that opened the door to education for me. At another point during this time in 2014, I learned about Yale University. They had a summer drama program. And so I applied for it and I got in. So I was selected along with a group of 15 people from all over the world. And it was it was all about directing. It's called Practical Approach to Directing Summer Program. And so I was there at Yale for 2 weeks. I had my own Yale student ID and I was, getting education in theater, really good education. And so, really you can put yourself out there. You have to find creative ways, especially when you're a creative person, if you're someone who's in the arts, to really get your life together, get your life back. Because after leaving that sort of indoctrination, you have nothing. Like you have nothing. Your only option is to be at this bottom level of the pyramid. Like Maslow's hierarchy, when you're just surviving, it's like you're stuck there. It's amazing when you see some witnesses that they really, are able to build their life up after leaving, because I've heard so many stories of people committing suicide, and I totally understand why they would. I had those type of thoughts when I first, left, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So, I got creative and I said, if there's a will, there's a way. Somebody's going to, open up a door so I can get this education. So that's what happened. And so now I'm, enrolled in community college, and I'm a little bit over halfway done now with my associates. But I have these other credentials from these really good programs and schools. And so all of that is good. And it has awarded me really good jobs too. So my work has now built up. So I'm not waitressing anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. At one point I was running and operating my own, a foster care program for a healthcare agency. And, people would just give me these opportunities because they saw the leadership qualities, and I am a hard worker, and I put in that work. I'm there every day. I'm there on time. I do what I'm supposed to do. And I seek out a lot of opportunities. And so now present day, I run and operate my own theater production company, and I'm making revenue regularly for my company because we conduct workshops for youth with those plays that I wrote with that school. I have 6 of them, and they're all available online on my website. And so they're called play shops. We call them play shops. So we teach those in the schools. I have contracts with different organizations to come in and do workshops, theater, improv workshops, all different kinds of stuff. Now, what I'm also doing is a lot of the plays that I'm writing now, these productions I've been doing, they're being done in other states. So a play, I've submitted a lot of plays to different festivals, and so at times they'll get selected, and when they get selected, I get checks for those too. So there's different ways that I'm making money.
You sound like you're really busy, and I'm really happy that you contacted me to tell your story because I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
And I think that people just, if they can get past the hurt and the deceit that they had from the Watchtower and begin to build their lives and realize that there is a life out there for them. But I think that a lot of people just need to get past that bitter feeling and realize that, don't keep living in the past.
Right.
If they could just chart their course and see that light at the end of the tunnel, that they could be just like you. They may not be a theater, major, but they could do what's in their scope of what they can do with their life, with their own skill set, But I really thank you for being on the program.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. If people want to take a look at the work that I'm doing now, if you're curious to see, how this theater person at one point was a witness, you can see now my current website. It's vintagesoulproductions.com. So just www.vintagesoulproductions.com.
If you've been in the struggle and want to appear as a guest on our show, email us at info@criticalthinker101.com. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Critical Thinkers.